He's Moses. Let my people go? Really? After watching episode 1 of season 2 of The Rings of Power, I have 2 specific takeaways from the show. And this is outside of all the lore-breaking monstrosity that the show actually is, the things that we already know it's doing. But things that I found, well, memorable in here is that, 1, Sauron is now the spaghetti monster Moses Beastmaster, which I'll explain in a little bit. And 2, Galadriel is now an even more prideful monster that's driven by her desire to destroy Sauron. Yeah, it's the same as last year, but boy, do they lean into that this time. And she's questioning whether or not maybe she really does like Halbrand. Maybe she's influenced by him, and that's a problem. Before I get into more details on this, let's go over the entire plot of this show. There is But before I get into that, let's go over the entire plot of the show so you know where we're coming from, because I know you didn't actually watch it. I did that for you, so you didn't have to. You're welcome. So I took it on me to only watch 1 show today. There is no way that I'm going to be doing 3 at all whatsoever. I have a life to live and a smile to maintain, so I'm not going to drive myself into that madness. So this is episode 1 of The Rings of Power season 2. It starts with a flashback of Sauron, real thirst trap that has a vision of power not of the flesh, but over flesh. Same thing that Celebrimbor said in season 1. Remember that. And together, okay, who's writing this show? I mean, is that a takeaway I have? It's still, the writing is still just a huge problem on the show, right? They said he'll bring the people together by enslaving them.
One we shall use to enslave the peoples of Middle-earth. Worship as the saviors who finally healed it. By bringing its peoples together.
What? Okay. Well, instead of bringing people together, he is betrayed by Adar at the worst government meeting since Brutus met with Julius Caesar. He's killed, and when he dies, just like Mordor was insta-created with all this heat, we have Forodwaith, right? The cold land kind of above the gray mountains of Middle-earth, above where the dwarves would live, a cold Arctic wasteland that is now magically created because Sauron dies. How long ago did this happen? I don't know. How long does it take to go from that point to the point we have in season 2, episode 1? I don't know, because details don't matter. They don't tell us this. But he changes the entire land. And so Adar is now freeing the orcs, and Sauron's juices sink down into the roots of the mountain, into this puddle that has a taste for vermin, and he becomes a crawling spaghetti monster. This black spaghetti thing that just eats bugs and... rats and people. And eventually he somehow reforms into Halbrand. How? I don't know. Doesn't matter. They don't care. So we're left with Halbrand looking, not the other guy from Slow Horses, the show Slow Horses, the main character. I don't know why he changes his look. They don't tell us, but okay, we'll just accept it. And he meets people and he goes on a boat. And now we found out, now we know he's on a boat. But do we know how long it took him to become Sauron from when he was killed by Eodar? Nope, no clue. No, it's not there. It doesn't tell us anything. And then the Leviathan attacks the boat, like we saw in episode 1 of season 1. And it decides not to attack Sauron because we learn he is a Beastmaster now. He can communicate. If Sauron has a power, because he's a Maiar, he has powers, but his only power is talking to animals. That's the one thing we learn in the show, and you'll find that there's one more spot. So yes. He's a Beastmaster. So he's a spaghetti monster Beastmaster at this point. All right, so we move on into Galadriel chasing Halbrand. That happens too. Galadriel chasing Elrond to get the rings that Elrond's carrying because he's got to get them to Gil-galad. And so they have this discussion about Gil-galad wanting to know who Sauron is who Halbrand is, because Galadriel wouldn't tell him. Then she reluctantly tells him, and then Gil-galad says he needs the rings, and Elrond won't give them up, so he leaps off a freaking waterfall.
Elrond, no!
I guess it's like Assassin's Creed, right? He jumps off, takes the leap of faith, and survives. Because everybody survives giant leaps. If we're going to just lean into movie tropes, just do it wholeheartedly. So now we head over to Mordor. Mordor, Halbrand is now taken captive. He is brought before Adar, and Adar recognizes him now as the king of the Southlands. But Halbrand says, I know that there's a new sorcerer coming, and if you let me go, I'll help you out. Talk about stupid writing. The whole idea that I'm just going to hold back information so you can't kill me in order to do this. Any real leader would be like, no, I'm going to kill you. I don't need to have you, or I don't need to be indebted to anyone and their information. But no, Adar says, okay, I'll spare your life, puts him in chains. And Halbrand says the most important thing in the entire thing. He says,
let my people go.
He's Moses. He has to, these are his people. Let my people go? Really? That's the best line you could come up with? I think they think they're being smart still. I mean, we didn't get any rocks look down, ships look up in this show. But to lift the line, perhaps the most known statement of Moses, right? Let my people go is what he says to Pharaoh when he is called by God in order to free the Jews from slavery in Egypt. And so Sauron is now Moses. So now he is officially Spaghetti Monster Moses Beastmaster. Oh, man. Okay, so we move on. Sorry. Okay, now we get back to our favorite people, the not Gandalf and the dirty little sociopaths, right? They remember they're heading to Rune because it smells better there. So why are they going? Good, because they gotta go. Maybe the stars are over there. I don't know, but it smells better. That's what we learned at the end of season 1. So we learned that also that Gandalf is having bad dreams. But because this is a poorly written TV show, he won't reveal those dreams to Nori, the only person... Nori? Is that her name? Am I remembering that right? I think so. Nori, the only person who's with him, who's helping him, who says, I'll be there with you. But will he reveal what's troubling him? Oh, no. We've got to keep that under wraps because this is a poorly written TV show. So they learn they're just going in circles because they're stupid.
Stone trees. We're going in circles.
There must be some...
They can't find their way around. You know, the sun would go one way. Perhaps if you just kept your sun to your left or to your right or whichever way you want to go, you'd fall in the right direction and you wouldn't be going in circles. Or maybe just look at the stars, right? You are supposed to be following some stars. So maybe when you at night go that over there where the stars are. Nope, they're just going in circles during the day. And there's no power. There's nothing that says that they're being manipulated into going in circles. They're just stupid. That's what we learn from this part of the show. They are just dumb. I mean, okay, not that we learned that now. We knew that before, right? Nobody goes off trail and nobody walks alone. We knew that they just kill the people who are injured when they're on their travels. So we already know that they have no ability to actually keep a community together because they just let the poor ones die, the poor injured ones die. So eventually they're left without food, and so not Gandalf explodes a tree and there are bugs that come out and they eat that instead. And then we learned they're being followed by something, somewhere, someone. Okay, good, fine. Halbrand is now back on the scene. He's in chains. He's tortured and beaten by the old man from the Southlands, who was apparently, he's the guy who went and turned the MacGuffin, the sword, at the end of episode 1. Anyway, he's got some sort of position now of power. And then we learn here he's also the Warg Whisperer. So after he's beaten, the Warg is in there, he's in chains, and Sauron feeds him a bone. And the Warg listens and he looks at him and has soft, cuddly eyes. And this is what Sauron's power is. He can control the animals. He's Aquaman Middle-earth. Big shift now over to the Grey Havens, because that's where Elrond is hiding. He survived. Big shock. He survived. And he meets Círdan. Círdan knows he's there because Círdan is clairvoyant and says to him, Elrond is carrying something louder than the sea.
I perceive you carry something in your charge. Something louder than the sea.
So Gil-galad then sends a message to Celebrimbor to start the fires back up. We've got to make more rings. And this is this tortured scene where Gil-galad has to be momentarily aligned with her, even though he knows she's the problem. He knows she would pridefully not reveal who Sauron really is. He knows that they made these rings in secret with Celebrimbor that were influenced by Sauron, but he will align with her, even though she's the dumbest, most self-centered, and ridiculously prideful person of the elves. Right? She's inviting division between the elves. And yet he continues to ally herself with him. This is like Adar going with the king of the Southlands and letting him have power over him by not revealing the information instead of just killing him off and dealing with it otherwise. So they create this tenuous alliance, and then Galadriel swears to him that she won't stop until Halbrand Sauron Halbro is destroyed. But then she realizes, because Gil-galad has no capability, he is simply there as sort of a prose sounding box to do nothing, to drive no plot forward at all. She knows, somehow, that Elrond has gone to Círdan. How does she know this? I don't know.
Someone who could turn the tides his way.
Because it seems like a good idea. There's no cue, there's no information, there's nothing that leads up to this crazy idea that she has. He must be at Círdan. That's the only place he could go. So we're back to the Grey Havens now, and Círdan and Elrond are talking, and Círdan apparently all of a sudden realizes that the elves, the rings, are the only savior for Middle-earth. The only thing that will save Middle-earth are these rings, but he hasn't been involved with these rings at all. But he's now the one making that self-same argument that Gil-galad and Galadriel are making. Why? I don't know. It just happens. There's no explanation. So what's his solution? To destroy the rings, to drop them into the ocean. And so he sails off into the bay, into a Dollar General dinghy, the worst possible sailboat that the greatest shipwright in Middle-earth could possibly build. And the ship, it's bumped. By who? Maybe Ulmo, right? But why? I don't know. It just happens. Things just happen without, there's no reason why all of a sudden. So with the bumping, right? He's about to drop it in the water, and the bumping, he drops it. And then, no, the ring makes a tinkly winkly sound. And then he looks at it longingly. They have this weird idea that these rings are bad. And let's not forget that these rings were made without Sauron's influence by Tolkien, right? Sauron was not there at all when the three rings were made, and they were made last after all the rings of men, after all the dwarven rings. They were made last, so there was no influence by Sauron at all, but somehow they have this call to them. So even to Círdan, literally the oldest and most wise elf who lived in Middle-earth at this time, he cannot escape their tinkly-winkly clutches. And then we go back to Rhûn, because Gandalf and Lori are literally setting up a tripwire to catch the person who's following them. A small little tripwire between two rocks are set up to catch whatever is following them, because we've seen an evil sort of like a plague mask looking character that on a ridge at some point. Oh, look, it's Poppy. Another freaking dirty little sociopath. Exactly what we wanted. Because they can't do anything except have their own Sam and Frodo.
Of course you are! And I'm coming with you!
And what we learn is now, Gandalf is stupid, Nori is stupid, but Poppy, she's got the answer. She brought the map, and they know that in order to find their way, so they don't go around in circles because they don't know how to follow the path of the sun or look at the stars or anything like that, they know they need to sing the song. Sing the song from last year.
Sing to me, land far away.
The walking song.
I think it's some kind of directions.
Where it has all the clues in the song of where to go. Ooh, why does this song have this? I don't know. What is this path that they're taking? I don't know. Why did they give us any hints about this? Never did. But somehow the song magically now is the path that they must take. It gives them all the clues to the places they must go. And then they get to Rhûn in that really awkward Rhûn right on the screen.
Welcome.
So we go from here to Halbrand back in chains. Adar tells Halbrand / the king of the Southlands the story of his life, how he was selected by Morgoth as one of 13 to have power, but he was chained into hunger and thirst, and then Sauron came and gave him some red wine, and it brought him back from the brink, and so he loves this Sauron, and Sauron, when Halbrand's sitting there, he has a little tear running down his cheek. They're trying to make Halbrand into this into this character that we can identify with, that we have compassion for, that we find some reason for what he's doing, right? He cannot be a bad guy. He somehow has to have a good side, right? Because everything is gray now. No more black and white. Let's just throw gray into the mix and throw a big old sludge of gray goo onto this story that Tolkien told, and nothing has any moral perspective anymore. He now vows to serve Adar to the end of his days, and the rest of Adar's days. Ooh, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know how that goes. You know, only until you survive Adar, so maybe he's going to die. So after we find Halbrand in chains, we get the worst possible lip syncing since Milli Vanilli, with Gil-galad singing the song of "We're peace outing to Valinor." We're done. We're gone. Middle-earth isn't for us anymore. It's fading. Goodbye. When again, let's read what Tolkien said in the Silmarillion in Of the Rings of Power in the Third Age. These 3 elven rings Sauron desired to possess them most. For those who wore them, for those who had them in their keeping, could ward off the decays of time and postpone the weariness of the world. What the elves felt was not the decay of Middle-earth. It was the weariness of the world, right? And they were the outcasts of Valinor. And because they were outcast, they were wearying of Middle-earth. The weariness of being alive in this land would bear down on them heavy, and the rings, the 3 rings, would ward off that decay, that feeling. But here it literally wards off a physical nothing that is killing their trees. And so he sings the worst possible lip sync since Milli Vanilli. And Círdan comes in. Oh, he's wearing the ring now. Yippee-ki-yay. Which means that then the Tinkly Winkly rings drop down the steps, land at Galadriel's feet. She puts it on. Gil-galad puts it on. The tree starts glowing like the trees of Valinor, like Laurelin. Right? It's glowing gold now all of a sudden because they're wearing... Because remember, what's in the rings? Remember, it's mithril. Mithril is the magic metal that's making it happen. Mithril is what's bringing it all back. So why do they need rings? I don't know. Why can't they just like get some mithril and sprinkle it around the base of the tree? The rings, they don't explain any of the power the rings actually have. In fact, the rings don't do anything until this scene. There is nothing that shows the rings have any power at all, because in this story, the rings are there to hold back the physical decay of Middle-earth, not warding off the decays of time and postponing the weariness of the world, but literally the physical destruction of Middle-earth. That's what these mithril magic rings are doing. But we don't see any of that happening until the elves put them on, because somehow the elves have a magical ability that then also wards off the decays of time. Anyway, my mind drives itself into madness when I try to think about how they're trying to establish what these rings actually do, because they don't show us at all that these rings have any power until this point. And then we get possibly the most awkwardly posed shot in the history of television cinema when they stick their hands together with the rings, the 3 of them, like up in the air. And they're kind of shaking a little bit. Why? Who decided this was a good look? This is like a bad pose for a Vanity Fair cover. It doesn't look good. You can tell that they're just posing here. And why would you stand there together with 2 other people and just hold your hands together like, ooh, by the power of 3, let it be. I don't know. Like it's some sort of stupid... by 3 there is balance, is what Galadriel said. But why is there balance by 3? Because I don't know. When you have 3, it's really hard to balance things unless you have a cool fidget spinner with 3 sides. I don't get it. I don't think they get it, but they threw it out there because that's all that they've got. Okay, so now we're almost done. I am so sorry for going so long. We are now at the new forge that Celebrimbor is doing with his apprentice. Don't know her name yet, but she's awesome, obviously going to be awesome.
Forgive me, my lord.
So Halbrand then, he escaped in chains, right? He escaped the Southlands, and on his horse, he goes all the way, the hundreds of miles back into Eregion. How long does it take? I don't know. Is he wearing the same? Sure he is. He's wearing the same clothes. Does he have anything on the horse to show that it's been long? No. He just showed up. It's like that point in season 1 when Celebrimbor and Elrond walked in their afternoon Sunday garb over to the doors of Moria to walk in. When really that was, I think, what did we say, like 100 something miles, 80 miles? I can't remember exactly. It's a long distance, but the details don't matter, and time frames aren't. They don't care about the time that things actually take. So that's why in the very beginning, we don't know how long it's been since Adar killed Sauron and Sauron became a spaghetti monster, black spaghetti monster. And then we don't know here at the end how long it took Halbrand to make it from Mordor over to Eregion, because the details don't matter in this show. They never have. The writing, I mean, it matters to them. They're just really bad at it. So the show ends. Halbrand shows up at the doors to the single door here, I guess, to Eregion, to wherever Celebrimbor is with his forge, and he wants entry. And Celebrimbor has this little smile, like, yes, you helped me by coaxing the metal, by creating this magical thing I've never heard of before as a metalsmith called an alloy. You did it, Halbrand. So there you have it. That's episode 1. Better than episode 1 of season 1? Probably, but I think that's primarily because there were no horrible lines like rocks look down and ships look up. They weren't trying to be smart and coming off incredibly stupid, but we still have the same problems. Things just randomly happen in the show. Why does Sauron have a relationship with the animals? I don't know. Why does Galadriel know that Elrond went to Círdan? We don't have to show that. She just knows. How does Círdan know that Elrond is carrying something louder than the sea? I don't know. He's just a smart, clairvoyant kind of guy. How does Círdan also know that destroying the rings would be abandoning Middle-earth to its fate? I don't know. They didn't show that. He just kind of knows, I guess. How does Poppy know to bring the map to Gandalf and Nori, the other, dirty little sociopaths trying to find their way, who are stupid and got lost in the bright sunlight of every day? How does she know to bring that? I don't know. She just did. So everything happens without setup. It's all prosaic nonsense with very little action. I harp on this all the time with bad TV. It's like a bad book, right? You show, you don't tell. And this show suffers in and out all the time from telling us everything instead of showing us anything. So is it better than season 1? I have to say the writing isn't as stupid. The acting is just as bad, but I just don't have I don't care about any of these characters. They're going down the path of farther afield from what Tolkien wrote. And as a purist Tolkien fan, I always want to see what he wrote on the screen. And I know a lot of people, they pursue Tolkien into any direction, right? They will take him with them and say, like, we are here on the edges of some random place and we will take Tolkien with us and we'll just stick his names onto here and we'll call it Tolkien. But I don't buy that, right? To be Tolkien, it has to follow what he wrote. We're also going to have an in-depth review. Michael and I from our podcast, Exploring Tolkien, will be looking at this in-depth. That should release tomorrow if you're looking at it the day that this releases. But that will be more in-depth, and we'll talk more and more detail about what Tolkien have. I just want to kind of give you a quick overview of episode 1 so you don't have to watch it because I did the pain for you. You're welcome.